Guys, this next clip you're about to see is really, really special. And to be honest, it may be the most important piece of content I will ever make in my life. So I need you to watch it to the end. It's a discussion about the true essence of what it means to learn a language. Um, Please share it with as many people as you can. Give this video a like. We need to spread the message that is the positivity and the beauty of language learning. Please comment and tell me your thoughts about what you heard in this discussion. Enjoy. This is a concept that I really haven't heard spoken about much in the language learning community, and this is something that I talk about. I've made a video about emotional connection in language learning, and you know,
Mm.
I kind of I understand the importance of that. We may have, I'm sure we touched on this a bit in the podcast that we did, but you know, like I have now the experience of learning a language in what we can consider an immersion environment, and one where I'm learning a language far away from that environment. And you know, just the fact that the emotional factors that I have associated with Spanish ensure that this language needs to always be a part of me because it's just who I am now, right? All the things that you
I
live,
know this is good when I'm getting chills. I
right?
know this is good content when I'm getting chills.
And
Sorry to interrupt.
oh, no worries. And you know, it just through my experience, you know, my emotions, you know, when I hear this language, you know, it's like, oh wow, you know, all these years just come, you know, just flowing by, and I feel like the excitement and all that I've been through, and I think I've intuitively understood that this is such a key essential parts of language learning. So it's like we have to think about how we can interject that into our studies. And I literally hear not many people talking about it. So I know Luca has talked about it. I've spoken about it, and basically you're the third person that I'm aware of that has talked about it. And it's like, what can you do to interject this human element into your language learning to ensure that you do it for a long time? You know, when I think about my Russian studies, how do I
Mm.
do it? Um, Fortunately, since I am an English teacher, I have a good amount of Russian speaking students, and I have nice relationships with them. It's the idea of, you know, wanting to go to Russian uh, spoken places and use the language, and even using the language with them, you know. I do
Mm.
a kind of monthly challenge where I do a recorded video of me speaking Russian every month, just kind of like to document the progress of a language learner. And oftentimes I can do these classes with these people who, you know, are maybe my English students. And it's just so nice to be able to have the chance to speak their language because, you know, oftentimes we're just speaking mine. And, you know, for me, here's one thing that we really coincide in is my reason to learn language is to have human connection and new experiences, right? And there is nothing like that. You know, some people have different reasons. You know, like Steve Kaufman will talk about, he loves to explore history. I think that's nice. That's cool. But for me, it's just all about, you know, connecting with people. And when you feel that, it's just like electrifying, and you know, you can sit back and reflect after it takes place, and you know that you're on the right track with what you're doing. It just feels so, you know, completely good that whatever effort you've made up until now, you know, has been worth it, and this journey is worth it because along the way you have these little glimpses of just human connection and beautiful experience. That's no matter what difficulty you can go through in this language journey, that the light at the end of the tunnel is just so worth it. And you know, throughout the process you see these like glimmers of what things are and what things could be, and it's just a beautiful thing.
Yeah. This is this is this is something which I'm passionate about beyond just kind of the language learning domain, but where you really get directly to the core of a subject. Because a lot of the time we all are aware of this kind of wisdom which is somewhere. But the best that we can do is kind of talk around it. And we often fall a little bit short, and we kind of use cliches, or we use these platitudes where they've been said so often that people know that they're true, but they don't have any impact when you hear them. What what we're talking about is real life. We're not just talking about language learning. We're talking about you having this experience where you go to Mexico and you meet this whole side of your family and this whole new side of your identity that you've just never been able to explore before. And you have this amazing experience which changes your entire life.
Absolutely.
And now what you realize is you must never I think we must never view language learning as this thing which we do on the side as part of our life. It is integrated as part of our life. And I think what makes you stick with a language over the long term is when you do something like go to another country, meet a whole side of your family, and have this amazing adventure, and this thing which completely changes your life, makes you a new person, and you come out the other side, you go, oh my God. And you realize that it was all lived thanks to your interaction with this language, and have all these positive relationships, all these positive emotions, all these positive thoughts and experiences, and this transformational experience, all associated with this language and culture.
Yes.
How are you not going to interact with that language throughout the rest of your life? It's just not going to happen,
Exactly.
because you're going to keep chatting to your family. You're going to keep wanting to go back to that place where you lived all of these wonderful experiences.
No,
And then to
absolutely.
add to that, all kinds of things. Like, for example, with me, with my French, I've been part of the University French Club from the day I got to uni. And so what happens for me is I go to the Uni French Club. I start chatting with exchange students. They invite me to the parties which they have with other exchange students, and I have the most exciting and fun nights of my life, because
Wow.
I like will go to a party where I'm like one of the only Australians there, and there are Italians, there are people from Belgium, France, the UK, Vietnam, all of these different places, all of these different languages, and I'm there, and I'm just like, this is what I live for. This is so much fun. You know what I mean?
It's
And
incredible.
I, I don't know. People people might ask you, why are you learning a language? And sometimes I just feel like saying, you know what? I'm learning a language so that when that person who I just met at that event um when they start chatting to me, and I realize that they're French or they're Chinese, for example, and I can start chatting with them in their language and create this moment of connections. Maybe I'm learning language just for those weird moments which you can never predict, but when they happen, they're so meaningful for you as a human. Just the other night, I was at a French Australian um, networking event,
Hmm.
and in the last 5 minutes of the night, just before I left, I started chatting with this dude, and I'm chatting with this dude in French, and he's asking me a little bit about myself. And after a few minutes of chatting with him in French, and then him asking me, "What do you study at uni?" I said, "I study mechanical engineering," and he's like, "Oh, do you want an internship?"
Oh my
And
God.
so,
Wow.
so the reason do you see what I'm saying? Sometimes you can't say, "Oh, I'm studying a language so that 10 years from now, when I'm at that one networking event, and that one guy that one guy with whom I'm having a conversation will then immediately warm to me because I'm speaking his language." You know what I mean?
Of course.
You can't predict that kind of stuff, but maybe these things, this is what life is, and if you manage to integrate language learning and language into your life in that way, that's where you create long-term motivation, long-term consistency, because you're not viewing it as this thing where you just go and sit down at your desk. It really is a part of who you are and how you live. Um, and so maybe more emphasis on us, as we should put more emphasis as language learners on creating the white space and the opportunities for those things to happen. Go to that random networking event, which you might think is going to be a little bit dicky and everyone wearing suits, but actually turns out to be a really fun night. Or go join that university French club. Go take those bachata classes. Go to the trouble of starting a language exchange with someone. Go to the trouble of messaging that girl who lives a few kilometers from you and going, "Listen, I know this is totally out of the blue and this is totally weird, but do you want to just like chat?" Do
Yeah,
those things, because you have no idea what's going to happen.
absolutely. Absolutely. And there's so many ways we can incorporate this into our lives. You've given a lot of great examples, and I mean, just from I think the you know just by making other people's human experience related to our human experience just makes you realize, oh wait, these people go through the same things as I do, have the same feelings, same hopes, and same dreams, but actually, um, they this was all happening in another language, right? Mine happened in English, theirs happened in maybe Russian or French, but it's all the same. And then when you can come into contact with these people and you have these experiences, you're able to realize how just in the same boat we all are. And it's just a beautiful thing for human connection. I can think of you know just a nice small step into that is to listen to the music of the country, the speaks the language that you're interested in, and it can be just like almost just like trivial things, or maybe not how you look at it. I mean, there's this one. It was a Soviet rock. It was a Soviet rock group, and they have one song that's called basically, I have time, but I don't have money, right? And basically, it just talks about how you just want to have a good time on a Friday night, and like these things that happen on like a Friday night, and you have time, but you don't have money. And I'm like,
Universal experience.
right. I'm like, maybe I can't relate to that. Like, I mean, I relate to that from like a perspective of maybe a little bit of a younger Mark. Now I've got a decent amount of time, and I'm not like terrible on the money side. So, but I can go
Rolling
back
good.
and
Oh.
I can go back into that person, and it's just like music has always been such a crucial part of my life that I listen to this music that came out, let's say, in '80s Soviet time, and it's just like basically the same experiences that we all go through regardless of place or time. And these small things can just really make you feel connected. um, you know I talk about, like, in my first year of being in Mexico, I met a Russian girl, and somehow she's like, oh, we won World War II. And I'm like, oh, like, interesting, because we were told that we won World War II, right? And you start doing some kind of research in it, and you see, like, you know the just the impact that they had, like, on, let's say, the victory of the overall World War II was like humongous. You understand why they feel like they just put everything on, like, on their backs, and just you know
Carried the
won the
team.
war. And like, it's still such an important thing, this war in Russia and in ex-Soviet republics, that even to this day, like, you can hear things on a consistent basis about this war. They call it the Great Patriotic War, because Nazis were just trying to basically wipe them off the face of the earth and things like that. And you say what you want about,
This
like,
this is insightful because I just want to kind of add a little bit of commentary to this. This is kind of what we mean when we say by learning another language you can kind of enter a new world or kind of explore a new culture. That is kind of a cliched phrase. It's kind of a this platitude. We say it so often that it loses its meaning. But what happens is, of course, you can at whatever time you want go look, do some research and read up about Russia's role in the Second World War.
mm-hmm,
But you don't. That doesn't happen out of the blue,
mm-hmm. It
unless
doesn't.
it doesn't happen out of the blue. But if you start learning the language and then you meet a Russian girl in Mexico who you end up having an interaction with because you speak their language and you have this interest in them and they warm up to you because you have this interest in them and their culture and language. That's when out of nowhere you have this conversation about World War II and you get this interesting perspective because they're going, oh, we won World War II. Oh no, we won World War II. You have this interesting interaction, you're being respectful, you discover this new perspective. That's what we're talking about when you say by learning a language you can explore new worlds and new cultures. what
Of
happens is
course.
on that random day in that random place in Mexico, when you bump into that random Russian and you start your relationship with that person, you find yourself in these weird conversations where you gain perspective.
Right. And for example,
Just as meta commentary
no,
to the
absolutely.
conversation.
The journey that it takes you along, and basically, like this war is so important for almost everyone that has. I mean, basically, they say like practically everyone that lives in those places had relatives that fought in this war, and the more contact I've had with Russian speakers, they've told me about maybe some of um, their relatives' involvement or what it was like for them, what they said. And I remember seeing one Instagram story. They have this day called like Victory Day, where they celebrate, um, the winning of the war and the defeat of the Nazis in Soviet territory. And you know, my student, she's like filming from her apartment in Moscow, and you see all these like fireworks going off, and everyone's going hooray, hooray, and like you really put yourself in the other person's perspective, and you feel from such a like a humanistic perspective, and like you almost feel like you're Russian yourself, and that you grew up with all of this because you can see the importance it has on them, and it just like connects you with the people and makes you want to learn the language even further, so you can continue this connection and this discovery. And yeah, language learning is it's such a powerful thing, and but just allowing yourself to open yourself up to new ideas and human connection, it all
Yeah.
goes hand in hand.